Hey folks, welcome back to Good Enough Customs. So, where did we leave off last week? Let's see, last week we had started getting the floors kind of just laid in there and kind of figuring out where things went and how things were going to line up. A lot of spot welds. A lot of spot welds got drilled out. So anyhow, what I ended up doing was off camera after last week. I had all these pieces and parts here that needed to be, cleaned up and pour 15 and all that fun stuff. So as you can tell, that is pretty well done. I didn't do the backs on some of these, like these little guys. I did the fronts, basically where moisture can sit between it and the bed floor. But I wasn't too worried about the backs. I'm basically going to go back and do a pour 15 coat under the entire bed of the entire truck. Just to kind of, lock in freshness.
CI is for beating the high cost of eating by locking in freshness.
So I wasn't too worried about doing the bottoms of these because, I'm going to go back and do that at a later date. Along with seam seal and all that fun crap. So anyhow, so I did the tops of all this stuff. So I only gave this stuff really one coat, mainly because it really wasn't too bad. There was a couple little spots of surface rust, just kind of in random spots along these cross seals, a couple random spots here on these reinforcement plates for the body mounts, the bottom side of them, it's not bad. These guys basically just did the side that, meets up with the body. Now these little guys, these were the rough ones. So if you remember back, I basically said I was going to vinegar soak these. So these soaked in vinegar for like 30 hours, which really loosened up and ate away a lot of the, the big chunky stuff. It knocked a lot of crap loose. Then I was able to get in there with a little flathead screwdriver and just scrape all the big stuff off. And then I got a little bitty wire brush and got in there and finished her off. And then I ended up taking and going through the whole, pour 15 process. Degrease it and then hit it with the their metal etch stuff. And these things turned out really good. I think I got a picture. If I do, I'll stick it right here. But those turned out really good. And so what I ended up doing was going through and just hitting everything with one coat. Now these guys, they got a little bit thicker of a coat because my brush wasn't small enough to get down in here. So basically I just put a puddle in there and, rolled it around until it covered everything. But, so those guys are done. They're ready to go. All this stuff's ready to go. Like I said, one coat pretty much took care of all of it. These weren't bad. So, basically it was just a little bit of a preventative measure, just to make sure that those guys don't rot away. So, anyhow, coming back over here to the rear, to the floor, you can see where I've got a tape line here and a tape line here. What I ended up doing was taking, of course, this guy's been pulled out now, so, don't worry that they're not lining up. Well, basically all I did was take a piece of tape, lay it over top of this guy, and then push it down really good and tight along this, and then took a razor blade and just followed this edge. And so now those guys, when they meet up, they're, dead nuts on top of each other whenever they meet up. That's exactly where this floor is going to be. So my thought is I can take both panels, take them over to the sawhorses, line these guys up, put a clamp down, get these guys clamped to where they're not moving. And then I can take my cutoff wheel and just zip, take it, cut it, and we're in good shape. So that should get us about where we need to be. Then I can take and line everything up and, start hitting it with the welder and get our seam welded back up. So once I get these guys welded together, then I can get this set back in here. Then I can take that guy. And if you notice, there's a 2x4 right here. I was just doing that, trying to get stuff kind of leveled out and measured and figured out. But if you look, it's not quite, it's a little too tall. So the whole floor runs uphill right here. So, unfortunately, I don't have like a 1x1 or 1x2 or 1x3 or whatever. I don't have like a really small one, but I do have cross seals. They're just right over there. So I actually haven't been out here since Monday when I first when I got those guys coated. So So I can pull that 2x4 out, I can put a cross seal in there, and that'll give me about the right height that everything needs to be. That way I can get this front panel laid out and get those bolts, you know, those bolt holes marked across the front. Not that with it sitting down just a little bit, it'd probably still be fine, but I would like to get it leveled out and stationary, and then I can go through and mark my holes. Then I can pull it out, drill my holes, and then we can make sure all that works to where once this guy is welded together, that guy can go bolting down, this can go on top, and then we can mark everything, you know, same thing with the tape, and then I can get to cutting and get that fixed up. So that's what we're gonna try and work on today, is getting everything cut, getting things welded together, you know, trying to make a floor. So once I get the floor kind of welded together and get it, you know, as one piece, then we'll put all the little pieces and parts on here and make it officially a big piece of floor, and then we can work on trying to get her dropped in. One thing that I think I'm going to do is once this is all put together and everything, and I'm toying with this, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to do it or not, but I've had a couple people mention it in different videos, is back in here somewhere, I'll have to do some measuring, but the fuel pump sits like right here. So once all this is cut and welded together, you know, I may take and cut a window out to where I can just have a little hatch that comes loose. And I'm not sure how I want to, you know, attach it just yet, but it wouldn't be too difficult to basically cut a small square out or rectangle, what have you, right over top the fuel pump. Because, you know, these fuel pumps do go out. But then all I would have to do is just make a little ledge for it to sit back down on, and some self-tappers or something like that just to hold it back in. Like I said, not 100% sure exactly how I want to do that, but that is something I had thought about previously. And like I said, a few folks have made comments of that over the course of the floor videos in this thing. Is making a little access hatch for the fuel pump. Because it really sucks dropping a fuel tank. Because fuel pumps never die when your fuel tank's empty. They only die when you just filled up. Ask me how I know. So, and then one other quick thing is, and I'm sorry guys, I'm terrible about remembering names and usernames and all this other stuff. But one of the viewers had asked me about the cross seals for the bed, you know, if I knew any place that made them. He actually reached back out on the last video and said the cross seals for the long bed, C10, basically the exact same cross seals that they used on the K5. So if you need cross seals, there you go. But anyway, that's enough yakking. I guess I'm going to get over here and kind of get crap moved around and put together and figure out what exactly we're doing here. And yeah, no, stuff and things. So I'm gonna get to it, and I'll be back in just a minute. All right, here's what we got. So I got it all laid back out, clamped down, clamped both pieces together, you know, front and rear here. Put some C-clamps on the edges just to kind of hold it in place. Got it all lined up, peeled my old tape up, put a new tape line down. So I'm gonna follow this edge all the way up, which will then cut both sides, and it should leave me a nice little gap there to be able to fill in with weld. So that's what I'm fixing to do, and I guess let's get to it. All right, there we go. We got her cut. It's a little ugly, but you know, we're gonna do. So unfortunately, this guy moved a little bit, so now I gotta get him all lined back up. But it left me a nice little gap right between. So I'll probably take, I'll actually probably take this thing, unhook it from the clamps, and then just hit the edges with a flat disc, just kind of clean it up. That way it's a nice clean edge. It'll take a weld really nice, and then we'll get the welding. So I think I'm going to take get this thing set back in the truck, these panels each side in the truck, get them all lined up, get everything ready to go, and tack it you know, in multiple places across there. That way we can make sure that it's where it's supposed to be. So I guess I'm gonna get these edges cleaned up, and then I'll see y'all back over at the truck. Alrighty, so it's really exciting. So I pulled that 2x4 out and put a cross brace in, which is the perfect height to get the front leveled up. This line, pretty good little gap. It's a little wider here at the bottom, it narrows at the top, so something wasn't quite right, and that may be because it was pulled up because of that 2x4. I didn't think of that. So it was probably pulled up, which opened that gap up a little bit when I laid the tape on it, and then once it's set down, it squeezed that gap together. So I'll have to, basically, it just starts getting narrow. There's not much of a gap up here, but it should still weld. They're not overlapping, so they're butted dang near right up against each other. So what I can do here is throw a couple tacks, you know, just kind of down the way here, and get that kind of ready to go. One thing I did have to do is back here on the back, you note I have a pair of pliers sitting here, and I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can kind of see it with the angle of the light here. I had to flare this back edge out because it was hitting, and I couldn't get it to seat all the way down. I had to do it on both sides, about midway on both of them, about midway to the center. I had to just kind of bend it out a little bit along that edge so it's sitting nice and flush down on that tail pan, cross member, whatever you want to call it. So I think this one's a little bowed because he doesn't want to sit all the way down, but when I go to doing my spot welds back here on the back, I'll take and, you know, put a clamp on it or do something, you know, to get it seated nice and tight and all that fun stuff. So what I did do underneath here, since, you know, they're right in this area, is the fuel pickup, the fuel pump and all that crap is right there. Since I am going to be throwing a few welds in right along this line, I put a piece of cardboard over it just so, you know, for my own, you know, for my well-being, I guess I should say. That way I don't have to worry about a piece of slag getting down there and burning a hole in something and, you know, make it go boom. So I'm gonna go through here. I'm gonna throw a few tacks along the way, get this guy kind of, you know, put together, and then I'm gonna try to pull all this out as one piece. Hopefully it doesn't bend and, you know, do its thing. So I'm gonna get on that, and I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, so got her tacked in. I'm gonna let it cool off a little bit before I go try and pull it out. I've also still got to pull these little guys out on both sides. Yeah, just kind of ran a little stack here and there, and then just kind of filled in the gaps a little bit with just some regular old spots. So like I said, I'm gonna let that sit and cool off really good before I go trying to move this guy. It's probably gonna be a pain in the butt to move this thing. It's gonna want to bend. I'm pretty certain it is. I think what I may end up doing is I may take a piece of, I got a small piece of stock over there I could take and probably just scuff a little spot, weld it, just to give it some reinforcement so it isn't so floppy right here in the middle. I don't know. We'll see if I do that. I guess it depends on what it's going to act like when I first start lifting on this guy, because what I don't want it to do is to, you know, taco and bend in half. So, all right, I'll let this guy cool off, and I'll check back with y'all in a moment. All right, finally was able to get the back piece, two pieces, out of the truck. Holy crap, what a pain in the butt. So the one thing I didn't take into consideration when it comes to taking that back piece in and out is you know, it goes in here. So there's that much of an overlap there, that much of an overlap there. So it ends up being, you know, almost exactly as wide as this thing is side to side. Yeah, there's no way to lift it up. There's not enough clearance to take it, lift one side and clear the bed, you know, the top of the bed rail. No way to clear that. There's no way to take, let me tell you, kind of wish I had the camera going, because that took me about 5-10 minutes to figure out how to get that stupid thing out of here. There's no way to take it and walk it up that way because you run out of room back here. So the only way I was able to get this out was take this guy, stand him up, and then turn it to where, you know, this piece is far back here as I can, and actually come up here a little bit. You can kind of see some of the scuffs I've made over here. And then take this end, and I mean, just barely get it around that corner right there, and be able to get that out. Whew, that's gonna be a real challenge. God, that is gonna be a real challenge when it comes to the entire bed floor being put together. I just didn't think of it earlier. I should have enough height to be able to stand the whole thing up and turn, lay in, and then lay it down. Thankfully, the front doesn't have any overhangs that go in front of the you know, the wheel wells. So, wow, what an adventure. So anyways, I did not go through and put any type of bracing on here. I was looking at it and I was like, man, if that don't hold, it should hold. And it did. It did flare and bend and twist a little bit, but everything's still nice and level between the two panels. Nothing's all kinked up. The only thing I did end up doing a little bit of damage to was this corner's bent up right here, and same on this side. This corner's bent up, but that's not a huge deal. And maybe put a couple dents there too. No, that's a big deal. Body hammer will clear 99% of that up. So since I've got the bed floor out now, I really regret not going ahead and taping off and getting the front ready for cutting and trimming for this as well, because that would have been really nice. I don't have that. I can't do that now because, yeah, I'm going to have to take this in and out like 2 more times. And that's, God, doggone, is a nightmare. Anyhow, before I do anything else, though, I'm going to go ahead and stitch this guy on up. So I'm going to get the welder out and get the stitching on this guy and make this one piece, and then, you know, grind it down, make it look, you know, halfway pretty. And I'll catch back up with y'all then. Alrighty, now she's all welded up. So yeah, don't worry about the end of this guy where it's, you know, the driver's side's a little longer than the passenger side. That isn't because I mismeasured something. That's just the way it is. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna let this cool down for just a little bit, and then I'll come back, hit it with the flap disc just to knock the tall parts down. And then I'll probably break out the little roll lock and just kind of get in there and try to clean these welds up. So I'll try and clean this up best I can between the flap disc and the roll lock. And so I'll do that. And then once that's all done, then we can attempt to put this back in the truck and lay out the line for the front piece, since I forgot to do that before. Or didn't really realize that I needed to do that before, so I don't have to keep pulling this part in and out. So, so we're gonna let this cool off. I'll get everything else ready to go, and we'll catch back up here in a bit. All right, so here's what we got so far. I got my weld done. I got it ground down. I am not a master with the flat disc, so it's got a little, you know, I got a little deeper in some spots and a little shallower in others. So it's got a nice little ripple, but it's good enough, whatever. Since it's going to get a spray-in bed liner in the back anyways, I am not that concerned with it. That'll level out. It'll clean it up good enough to where it won't really be noticeable. I did go ahead and flip it over and give the backside a quick, you know, grind through, and gave it just a quick shot of paint just to get it, you know, covered up. So so here's what we've done so far while I was waiting on all that stuff to dry so I can flip that back over. I went out and grabbed the old piece and got them lined up by those little guys right there for the rear seat to clip in. And yeah, that isn't quite right. So basically, I'm gonna have to round these out just a little bit on this corner on every single one of them. Again, whatever, man. I tried going from the underside, and well, I don't have anything to hold it down on top, so I couldn't hit it with the center punch to try to mark it. So I was trying to stick my marker up there. It got some of them, but I wasn't really trusting that, because yeah, to go through the nut that's in there to get up there, I mean, it was just barely a little tickle of Sharpie on there. So where are we at right now? Where we are right now is I got to pull that front piece back out, open those holes up just the tiniest little bit. Open those up so I can get some bolts in them. That way I can at least bolt down a couple spots in there so it doesn't move. And then I can take this guy and put him back in, lay it on top of the other piece that's already in there, slap him in there, and then I can figure out where I need to cut on, you know, those. So that way I can bring them both back out. I can lay them back out here on the sawhorses and, you know, proceed to cutting, and then weld those up, and then, you know, butcher it with the flat disc, you know, like I do. So anyhow, that's kind of where we're at right now. Not a whole lot more than that going on. It's all stuff y'all guys have seen before, you know, cutting, welding, grinding, drilling, same thing, rinse and repeat. So I'm not filming a whole lot of it, so I can kind of work a little faster. And it's a slow going process. I think I've been at it today about 6 hours already. So it's a very slow process. Check stuff, you know, bring everything over, lay it in, check your fitment, bring it back out, lay it back out. You know, there's a lot of back and forth on this. So I'm not recording all of it. Hopefully y'all guys don't mind, but you get the gist of it. I mean, the majority of everything important is getting filmed here. So I guess I'm going to grab that front panel, open those holes up a little bit, and then I'll get this panel back in, and then I'll take y'all guys in there with me while I figure out where to cut. So so I guess I will be back in just a bit. I got the front panel is bolted in, just one on each side, kinda, just to hold it in place. I went ahead and measured from the front edge to the very back edge. It's 26 inches. That thing's 26 inches deep. So that way I've got a little bit of a, you know, I can figure out how far in that needs to sit on this other one and kind of figure my overlap out. And that'll tell me where I can cut. So I guess I'm going to get the other one, the other panel, and fight to get in here. So we can figure out where in the world this needs to go, you know, so I know where to trim it. So let me grab that and I'll be right back. All right, let's see if I can't remember how I got this in there. Other way. I need my step stool. All right. Let's see. How did I get this stupid thing in here? Holy crap. All right, now that may have got bent a little bit. So that is not supported. All right. So let me. This is a friggin' nightmare. Holy cow, this is gonna be a chore to get in when it's all one piece. But I think we can get her. Hopefully by then Jackson will be back and I'll have an extra set of hands. So let me go to the front side. It's a little easier to measure and look, plus it's supported up on the front side. All right, so now I'm back over here on the front side. So I measured this guy out at 26 inches. Does not give us a lot of overhang here. This is 24 and a half to here, and then this will be 23 3/4 to this edge. So what we'll probably end up doing is just kind of splitting it in the middle. We'll probably go to the 25 and a half, and I'm guessing that's where we're going to end up making our mark at, or our cut is at about the 25 and a half inch line. So let me clean this up a little bit, get some of this dust off so the tape will stick. Suppose I could have done that over there. All right, so 25 and a half inch. And I'm just gonna mark this right now. Just love tape measures. Okay, that's 25 and a half. So now I've got my marks all the way across this guy. So now all I got to do is just lay a tape line and make sure all these connect. That'll get me pretty close. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just you're wanting to make sure that you cut both of these in the same spot. All right, and then I laid out this tape line so I know where this piece needs to butt up to. So this is basically just right on that edge. So I know that's where this guy needs to butt. And yeah, now we're gonna take it all back out again and take it over to the sawhorses, get it set up, get everything lined up, and make sure stuff doesn't move. So I'll go get started on that, and I'll see you over there. All right, so I've got it laid out. It's butted up to my tape line on both sides. So this should be pretty square. I think what I'm going to do now is I'll get some clamps on this and get this clamped down so it doesn't move. And then I'll lay my tape line out for right here so we can start cutting. Alrighty. I guess let's do this. Okie dokie. This is a long and drawn out process. It's one of those, like, you know, last week I got the floor kind of set in there, and little teaser, you know, the thumbnail last week, you know, the little teaser shot of, you know, the floor kind of together. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, this won't take that long. God almighty, I was so wrong. So anyways, here's where we're at. We've got, I've got these guys clamped together. And of course, with these guys, you know, being ribbed and everything, ribbed for her pleasure.
Rib for her pleasure. Ew.
So with this guy being ribbed, you know, all the little peaks and valleys and everything going through it, they're not all matching up on height, and it's to be expected, man. I mean, you know, these things have been cut, they've been heated, and, you know, all that stuff just with the little bit of work I've been doing to them. So the way I think this is going to work out best is I'm going to take, I got my angle iron here that's a nice flat piece, so I can take that and I can kind of hold that down, and that makes me pretty level across these guys, these three ridges here. And if I even tuck him back a little bit, I can still get this guy. So I can go ahead, hold this guy down, because there's no way to really clamp this. So get that on there, get him held down, put me a tack there, put me a tack here, here, and here. That way these four will be tacked in, it'll be nice and level there. And then I'll move on to over here and pretty much do the same thing, verify everything's where it needs to be, get it level, tack it in, and basically do that on all the peaks of the ribs going through here. And then once that's done, then I can come back and worry about getting these valleys leveled out, because some of those, you know, like this guy, for instance, I mean, I can almost fit my whole finger up underneath there. But that's my doing, because that's that one, that's where it overlapped. That's my seam from the other piece. So that one may have to just kind of sit, and then once everything else is pretty well welded up to where this guy's not going to give, I may have to get back here with a hammer and just kind of work this down a little bit. But it should all work out pretty good. I did not, this might come back to bite me in the butt, but I did not take all three pieces, put them back in the truck, measure, you know, test fit, and do all that. Mainly because my back's screaming, I'm really tired, and it's just me right now. Jackson had some things he was doing with some buddies of his, so he's been gone all day. So I got no help. But, well, that, and if I put it in there and then tacked it up, I'm just like, man, I really don't want to strain that whole piece while I'm flexing and twisting and doing all that, trying to get all this thing out of there. So, so what I did was I put a tape measure on it. I measured from the front panel, or the front support, to the rear support, measured that. It came out to 63 1/8, if I remember correctly. 63 1/8, something like that. This is 18 gauge steel, so it's almost a 1/16 of an inch. So that would almost give me an 1/8 of an inch, roughly 1/8 of an inch of steel, you know, overlap. So measuring the top of these, take out that 1/8. I measured this out to, what did I measure this to? 63 1/4. So basically an 1/8 of an inch difference between front and rear. You know what I mean? There's an 1/8 of an inch overlap here. So, so an 1/8 of an inch difference between what I measured on the top side of this metal versus what's going to be on the bottom side, which should be about perfect because a 1/16 of an inch and a 1/16 of an inch is 1/8 of an inch. You know, so yeah, I think my math checks out. So anyhow, so I think that's what I'm going to get to doing, is get over here and get to tacking these guys in. Yay! So I'll get started on this, and I'll check back here in just a bit. Alrighty, so we've got the tacks all in place on the ridged areas. Need to get down here and put some tacks in on the valleys. Only thing I'm noticing is, and it could just be the difference between the two different panels, is this bottom half, it seems like its valley is a little bit deeper. So it looks like we've got a ledge on this side. You know, still a ledge, still a ledge, still a ledge, big ledge, but that's my fault. Let's walk on over here. Let's see what we got. Not too bad, not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, so it almost seems like this top edge sits just a little bit higher. Its valleys aren't quite as deep. So went and got the good old hammer and dolly. I figure I can get in here and maybe hit it with the hammer and dolly, try to flatten it down a little bit, you know, bring the bottom one up and the top one down a little bit, and maybe make them meet in the middle. And hopefully we can do that. So this again will be a slow and painful process, because if I can get it to line up and do okay, then I'll buzz it, and then I'll move to the next one, and then buzz it and move to the next one, and so on. So so I guess I'm gonna get started on that, and I'll be back. All right, so we've got her all pretty well leveled out all the way up to this point, mainly because at that point I'm pretty much running out of arm to get to this guy, which if you look, this guy, there is a big old gap there. So like I said, that one, that's where that seam is that brought the other two pieces together. So that's understandable that it might be, you know, extremely warped. The rest of them, I'm gonna have to go to the other side and basically do the exact same thing that I did here, which is take my dolly, set it underneath, beat on it with the hammer on the top side, and that gets us leveled out pretty well here. So I'm gonna move to the other side and see how far in I can reach, and do the same thing again, basically, just from the other side, and try to work my way back in over here. And that way we're at least spotted all the way across, with the exception of maybe the middle because I may not be able to actually reach the middle few. Looks like probably 3 of them in the middle I won't be able to reach. That's okay. I can get Jackson to come in here or do something, you know, tomorrow morning or something, get out here and get those hammered out real fast. So so I'm gonna go over there and get that going, and then once I get those tacked up, I may go ahead and just start, you know, slinging welds and go ahead and get this thing buttoned up, and that way it can cool off, and then I'll probably call it a night. So I'm gonna go over there and do that, and I'll check back with y'all here in a bit. Okie dokie, so here's what we got now. We are welded up. Careful, still a little warm. So the only thing that's kind of a issue, which is not a huge issue, is this guy, still a little warm. It's kind of coming uphill in the center here. I guess that metal shrank and it you know, it's bowed in the center. Not that big a deal. I hadn't put the tape measure to it, but that should be right around where one of those, you know, cross seals goes. So the cross seal should go roughly in that area, and that'll be enough to pull that back down nice and flush. Worst case, whenever we go to do the plug welds and all that fun crap, you know, I'll just have somebody stand on it and hold it down so that way it flattens out. So all in all, not too bad. Still got to go through, grind all this down, and that's just going to be a mess, I'm sure. But I got to go through, get all this ground down, get it all cleaned up, and then, you know, flip it over, clean the other side up, throw a little paint on it, make sure she looks nice and pretty. Then we'll take and, you know, while it's flipped over, put all the accessorize on there. So we got those cross seals, we got those captured nuts, we got the little cups for the seat bracket thing, and we got the body mount bracket things. One other thing that I've still got to get done on here is the body mounts. Those have to be drilled. So back here on the back, this is where one body mount will go. There's another little divot out spot right there. So that's where a body mount goes. That's where that body mount goes. Shouldn't be too hard to figure that out. The mid body mount, yeah, that one's not marked. So we'll have to figure that one out, get it in there, figure out a way to mark it, and get it drilled. Actually, I have to kind of figure that out before I put those plates on. Dang it. So, all right, well, I'm going to go get me some dinner. So I may be back out here tonight. I may call it a night and come back out tomorrow. So either way, we'll see you later. All right, folks, next day. I've been editing on the video this morning. It's around about lunchtime. Trying to get the video edited up, try to get a little bit ahead of the game. So we're already at about 40 some odd minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this one good, because everything else is gonna take quite some time to get going, and I'd like to get that guy done. Plus I have some domestic duties I need to do inside the house today. But I'm hoping that I can get back out here tonight and get back to this and get to, you know, grinding on these welds, getting these guys all ground down, get this thing flipped over, get it cleaned up on the back side. And then we can get the accessories, which are stacked on that bucket right there. We can start getting that stuff laid out, get it welded on, get that stuff done. And then that way this thing is ready to go in. So close. So close. And then I also figure, while I've got this thing flipped over and I've got everything, you know, welded on, all the accessories and all that crap, might as well go ahead and give it the old scuff and hit it with the Port 15 and get that part done, because trying to get to some of these areas underneath the truck with the floor in is gonna be just a nightmare. So I figured go through and just go ahead and Port 15 the whole bottom of this guy. Topside I'm not too terribly worried about right now. I can do that in the truck, get the edges and all that fun stuff. So we'll worry about that later. But yeah, before the floor goes back in the truck, I want to go ahead and get the whole floor Port 15, mainly because once you get underneath the truck, you've got, you know, fuel tank in the way, some cross members, you've got the frame rails, you know, stuff like that. So it'll just be a nightmare trying to get all that stuff coated and covered while it's in the truck. So yeah, unfortunately, floor's not going to go in today. Dang it. But we're close. We're really, really close. So anyways, I do appreciate y'all guys watching. I know I say this every week, but I really do. It's it keeps me going. It keeps me moving on this stuff, because really, I would have given up on this a long time ago. Put a for sale sign on the Blazer and just like, get out of here. So thank y'all so much for watching. You know, it does. It really keeps me going. So if you liked the video, be sure and hit that like button. If you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed, why haven't you? Just hit the little button down there. All it does is help get the channel growing, all that fun stuff. So if you got any questions, comments, suggestions, you know, better ways to do things, you see me doing something, you're like, you know, there's a lot easier way to do that, I'm open to ideas. Throw it down there in the comments. If you don't follow me on social media, I've got my social media stuff down in the description. And I don't upload a lot of stuff to social media. You know, I do occasionally. It's not something I do, you know, frequently, but there is some, you know, stuff down there. So anyhow, thanks once again, and we'll see y'all guys next week. And just remember, it ain't got to be perfect, just good enough. And we'll talk to y'all later.